Howdy, partners. Welcome to the weekly YouTube show where we will look at the NBA through a Lone Star lens. I'm Tim MacMahon, joined by my fellow Texan, Michael C. Wright. The C, of course, is for country. Mike, how you doing?
Good, bro. I had to bring the dead cow to the show, man. I don't think that's real though. I think that's plastic, to be honest with
Kind of reminds me of the Mavericks offense at times this year. So far, it's early. It is early, but look, we want to do this, and we'll do it, on a weekly basis throughout the season because there are a lot of interesting things going on in the state of Texas with these three NBA teams. And let's start in your backyard, Mike. At as far as the standings go, the top of the Texas Triangle right now. That is the San Antonio Spurs. Every time I go to an arena, I've got like scouts, executives, people just coming up to me going, "Holy bleep, did you see what Victor Wembanyama did?" Uh, they're undefeated as we record this, Mike. I think a reasonable question to be asked is how soon are Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs going to be real deal contenders?
I'm gonna say pump the brakes on that, Tim. Chill, man. Chill. Like it's way, way, way too early. But I think the biggest part of it is let's see what it looks like once they get De'Aaron Fox back.
Mhm.
Because I don't think we've really seen San Antonio at 100%. Lou Cornett, he's been out for a while with this ankle injury. But I think when you get De'Aaron Fox back, you sort of get a chance to see Stephon Castle play off the ball. And I think that is probably where he's best because if you sort of look at what he's done over the first four games, he's got 25 turnovers, my man.
Yeah.
As good as he's been, he's got 25 turnovers. So I think with an experienced ball handler like De'Aaron Fox, I think that changes. And I think that you can really make better use of Steph Castle's skill set, as a cutter, just the plays that he can make off the ball. So I'm just gonna say, let's just chill out, let's wait. But I will tell you, those guys in that locker room, they've been a part of some bad teams. And it's almost like this feeling of we ain't going back. Like they
No,
do
no.
not want to go back.
Listen, as long as Victor Wembanyama is healthy, they
Yeah.
aren't going back. And look, that when you have that kind of talent who has made massive strides since he's come in the league, and you wrote the story. I encourage people to go back and find a detail and everything he did this summer to work on, his game, his mind, his body, especially. But from the going and hanging with the monks to working with Akeem, and obviously the dude has spent some time in the weight room. But when you have that kind of talent, anything's possible. And we've never seen this kind of talent. And like the potential is starting to come to fruition. 7 foot several inches tall. They're like evasive with height. Who cares? Super tall, unbelievably skilled for that size, always been a fluid athlete. And like Mike, when they came to Dallas for the opener, the thing that amazed me the most was how much power he's playing with. And he's still wiry, but there's some definition in that body. Like, Jason Kidd mentioned how much you can tell he's worked on core strength. When he is bumping Anthony Davis off the dribble and AD's getting knocked back and is creating space, I mean, this guy's the love child of Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Shaquille O'Neal, as far as I can tell. Yeah, I'm going to get excited about that. And they've got some pieces around him. You mentioned Stephon Castle. Dylan Harper's off to a great start, coming off the bench. But like you said, De'Aaron Fox coming back soon. And that's going to be interesting. They only played 5 games with Wemby together last year. How do you think Fox's return changes the dynamic? Who do you think comes out of the starting lineup? What does that look like?
That is so tough. But, if you just look at sort of the way the San Antonio Spurs operate, like they are not going to break Harrison Barnes Street. That is not happening. And so if you look at that, you would think that the odd man out might be Julian Champagnie.
Mhm.
And that is not a knock on Julian at all. He's played well. He's gotten better as a defender. He's shooting the lights. He's shooting the skin off the ball right now. So it's not an indictment on him, but I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to have to take Julian Champagnie out of the starting lineup. put Steph off the ball, and then make De'Aaron Fox the primary ball handler, which is fine. I think they'll play faster with De'Aaron, obviously. I watched him the other day. Now, this is weird, Tim. Like, we were in New Orleans and they were doing 5-on-5. The Spurs never let you see that kind of stuff. And they
Hmm.
sat there, they let us watch the whole thing. And then later on in the locker room, De'Aaron was like, "Oh, you guys weren't in there, but today was the first day I got to play 5-on-5." I'm like, "Nah, bro, I was right there watching you." So he's pretty close to coming back.
Right.
For him right now, it's a conditioning thing. They've got to kind of ramp him up, get his conditioning right. So I'm interested to see how that looks. But you mentioned Dylan Harper. What do you do with him? Like, this kid is ready. Like
Ooh. Yeah.
that that season opener in Dallas, maybe the first half he sort of had that deer in the headlights look, but after that, man, he's settled in, and he's crafty, can just do a lot of things. And like, I was surprised that he's played as well as he's played just as a rookie. But this other night against New Orleans, Victor is out of the game. They go on a 14-0 run, and Dylan Harper has 6 of those points. Like, that's the type of impact he's having right now.
Well, yeah, and look, obviously his dad was a really good pro, multiple championship rings, long NBA career. That helps prepare him. He comes in the league with some polish, but the other thing Dylan Harper came in the league with, that dude has an NBA body. I
He
mean,
does.
6'5", I think they list him at 215, but like he is a guard who gets to where he wants to go and moves people around when he gets there. And then he's got just so much craft. He's the crafty lefty, right?
Yep.
But he gets in there, understands how to use the pivot, the pump fake, big, strong finisher, smart guard. And to me, it's pretty clear for the time being, he's going to be a sixth man.
Yeah.
They're going to start De'Aaron Fox. I mean, the question that you could never get a straight answer on, and it's a total hypothetical because there's no way they could have known. But if they knew they were going to land number two in the draft, if they knew they were going to get Dylan Harper, do they make the trade for De'Aaron Fox? Which meant not just giving up the assets, which I don't think they gave up too much to get him. I thought it was a good trade, but also the commitment of a max contract. But there are worse problems to have than, hey, we've got one proven all-star guard, a reigning rookie of the year, and the number two pick who is ready made to come in and contribute right away. So, the people of the Spurs I've talked to basically said, hey, there's 96 minutes of those two guard spots, and we've got three dudes who can play. We'll make it work. But I mean, long term, when you look at Wemby, Stephon Castle, which that might be the best defensive duo in the league, by the way,
Yeah.
and then add Dylan Harper to the mix, and I'm talking long term, like 5, 8, 10 years down the road, and these guys are going to have a window. It's a matter of how soon will they be contenders, not will they ever become contenders in my mind.
Well, I will tell you this: Victor has really sort of hit the fast forward button on that process.
Mm.
And, kind of like what you talked about, just all the things he did over the summer. But there's sort of an added element to me, and it's that he plays with more intention. Everything he does is done with intention. I mean, you look at the other night when they played Toronto, bro, he took 8 shots. He literally took 8 shots, finished with 24, 15, 4 assists, and only one block. And I was thinking, like, okay, if he doesn't get a block, I'm going to have to write that he did not have a block. But
It's
at the
it, it's
same
breaking
time,
news because he's got such a long streak.
right. But at the same time, it was the most impactful defensive game he's ever had, in my opinion. I mean, man, I'm telling you, the Raptors offense was two totally different things when, Vic's off the floor and when he's on the floor. I mean, they did not even attempt to get into the paint to get to the rim whenever Vic was, on the floor. But then when he's off the floor, they're throwing lobs, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
It was crazy to watch, but he was so impactful. But I think that is has been a big part of this process, just the intention he plays with. Mitch Johnson always says that, hey, the thing about Vic is he can do the simple things. And when he does the simple things, that's sort of when he really shines. Like, not all the basketball tricks and all the 360s. No, just do the simple thing. And when Vic does that, the Spurs benefit tremendously.
Well, the spectacular will come with him.
Right.
And look, I hear what you're saying. When he does the simple, like stuff's going to take care of itself. But dude, there are multiple times per game this guy is doing something that you've never seen before. I mean, of all the crazy dunks that he had in Dallas, and I mean, there were multiple times I just threw my hands up and was shaking my head. The sequence that I'm still just in awe of. Derek Lively's 7'1". 7'1" guys don't get jump hooks blocked. And if they do, it's like you get a little piece of it. Victor
Spiked
volleyball
it.
spiked his freaking jump hook, gets the ball, and he's not shooting a lot of threes now, right? He's a paint attacking guy primarily now, which has been a big change in mentality. But in this case, he's got the ball at the top of the arc after that, between the legs, crossover, back between the legs, behind the back into a step back three and one at 7 foot whatever. Oh my God, I mean, jeez. And it's every game. It's
Right.
ev- it's every game that he's doing things that just, I mean, I'm telling you, grizzled veteran NBA executives and scouts are just as in awe of this as we are. I was talking to this one dude who's an executive at a Western Conference team, and he's a millennial. He's been in the league for a while, but he's a millennial. So I thought he had the perfect comp. He said, Wimby is the guy that I used to make on video games. He is create a player,
He is, for sure.
you know, and he's create a player who's got some NBA seasoning now. And I feel like when he came in the league, he used to say a lot to you guys, don't put me in a box. He wanted to
Right.
prove I've got these guard skills. I know I'm 7 foot several, but I can handle it. I'm a shooter. And now I feel like the only thing he wants to prove is he's a winner. And
Yeah.
he's proven it so far this season.
You know what? Like if you were to ask anybody within the Spurs, like, what's the realistic expectation, for the season? What's a success for you guys? Oh, if we have a chance to go to the playoffs. No, Vic is like, no, 60. Like we don't even want to deal with the play-in. Like it's a failure if we don't get at least a 6 seed. And so, like you guys have talked about it, that sometimes Victor can come off as arrogant. That's not what he's doing. He's just speaking matter of factly. And so he said that recently, hey, the 6 seed is what we're after. And they've got a chance, but let's be honest here. The four teams they started the season with, I think at
Yeah.
the time they finished that last game, those teams were combined 2-13, something like that. So, but Vic put it in the proper perspective. He said, "Hey, we're winning the games that we're supposed to win. Like, let's not get too excited. We're doing what we're supposed to." And so I think that there's a maturity level there, and I think that sort of permeates that whole locker room. You got guys like Harrison Barnes that they've been through these things,
Yeah.
and so I think they have a good mix of young guys, older guys, and I think that's really sort of helping to expedite that maturing process for them.
Well, to be clear, Bontemps is the one who says arrogant. Bontemps, he's got that Yankee sensitivity.
Yeah,
We know, Mike. We know the old saying, it ain't bragging if it's true.
exactly. If you
And
got the
it
goods to back it up,
and it's true. So look, obviously the Spurs, the expectations have soared with their early success. The Rockets came into the season probably with the highest
yeah,
expectations of any of these three teams in Texas. 2-2 start for the Rockets. Obviously, double overtime in the opener against OKC. Lose a tough one to the Pistons, and have bounced back since then. Um, Kevin Durant is who he is. I mean, you don't worry about him at all. The thing you hear the most about the Rockets is, hey, are they going to have to go get a veteran point guard? Can they handle, can they handle this loss of Van Vliet? Is that going to derail them? Blah, blah, blah. Um, I want to point out one thing real quick. The Houston Rockets have the top rated offense in the NBA right now. Okay. The
right.
Houston Rockets are coming off, and it was, not that toughest competition. It was two likely lottery teams in the Eastern Conference, but they're coming off the first two-game run in franchise history where they scored at least 135 with 55 plus field goal percentage in consecutive games. Um, I'm just telling you, there's not panic in Houston. about the Rockets' point guard situation with Amin Thompson starting there and, Reed Shepherd getting an opportunity to prove himself off the bench. There's going to be patience there, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And like going into the season opener in Oklahoma City, I was talking to a Rockets assistant coach, and he was like, this is really about data collection at this point.
Yeah.
We're just trying to see what works. And so, everybody was all about like, hey, this double big lineup they're going to do. Oh, it's going to be huge. Well, they just wanted to see, like, let's see it for a couple of games. And let's be honest, it looked pretty good against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, that was a brawl, man.
Well,
Like that was
OKC had
playoff intensity.
Yeah, OKC had to adjust to that. OKC
Yeah,
switched it up in the second half and went small. They basically said, "Hey, big against big, we're getting our butts handed to us.
right.
Let's go speed versus size," and that kind of opened things up for them. But you're going to see that as a tool. You're not going to see it on an every game basis, because you can't run up Steven Adams minutes. Is one
No.
reason.
Right. I mean, it's just not sustainable. And then you got Amin Thompson trying to run the point and guard the
Yeah.
best player. I mean, that's a lot of energy that you're expending there. So I knew that it was just a matter of time before they switched up that starting lineup. And what they're doing now with Josh Okogie in the starting lineup, I think in a way, his own ball defense sort of takes a little bit of the workload off of
Mhm.
men. So he can operate, be the two-way player he is. So I think it's fine. And I think they're still going to be, as the season goes, they're going to be experimenting some more. Now, they did actually apply for that disabled players exemption, but the feeling within that organization is, they weren't optimistic that, hey, we can go get a legit ball handler to run our offense. No, that's just doing due diligence.
Well, and they've also got, I don't want, we're not smart enough. You went to West Texas A&M, and I spent 8 years in college and only got 1 degree. So we're not smart enough to detail all the second apron issues, but they've got handcuffs in terms of what they can do
For
with the
sure.
rock. But the simple fact of the matter is, it ain't like they can go out and get another Fred Van Vliet. There's a
Right.
reason they gave him a max contract in the first place. And nobody's going to minimize the loss of Van Vliet. He was the leader of that team. He is a tone setter. I think where people maybe are a little bit confused is understanding where that loss really hits them the hardest, and
Defensively.
that's on the defensive end. And look, they were one of the best defensive teams in the league last year, and there were two guys who really set the tone, and neither of them are in a Rockets uniform this year. Dylan
Right.
Brooks was traded to Phoenix. Obviously, you do that trade 100 times out of 100 because they didn't give up massive value to get Kevin Durant, who filled a glaring void for a go-to guy for them. But Dylan Brooks isn't in Houston anymore, and Fred VanVleet, unfortunately, is not going to be able to play this year, as he recovers from that knee injury. And you nailed it with the Amin Thompson thing. They are asking a lot out of him if he's going to be running the show as a point guard, which, look, a lot of that's going to be you get the ball in the half court, and Şengün kind of runs point center, but still bringing the ball up the floor, running as a point guard, and guarding the other team's best player. And you saw him cramp up in the overtimes against Oklahoma City, which, look, the guy's got like negative body fat. I mean, he's a 6'7", like singular muscle. He's an absolute tank, but he cramps up in OKC. Dude, you chase Shea Gilgeous-Alexander around for 40 something minutes, and also have the ball in the hands all night. So absolutely right. Okogie, they can. Thompson still, he might be the best perimeter defender in the league, so he's still
Yeah.
going to get a lot of the other team's best player, but they don't want to make him do it 35, 38 minutes a night. They want to give him, some breaks there. And then frankly, Reed Shepherd, it's going to be very interesting to see how things go. He's got a chance to really carve out a role as that, offensive engine off of the bench, but there's some massive defensive issues there, Mike.
There are, but I got to tell you, Tim, because it's not like the guy isn't putting in the work. I talked to an assistant with the Rockets, and I was told that they went 3 weeks where they would not even let him shoot the ball. He
Mhm.
spent 3 weeks, 2.5 hour workouts, 5 days a week, and all they worked on was defense. And I've talked to even other executives around the league, and they say that Reed has really good hands, sticky hands, can knock the ball out of there. He's just got to be able to get better at the own ball defending because you saw at OKC like they were just blowing by him. But I think that's a product of him being sort of thrust into almost a playoff like environment in the season opener. Just wasn't ready for it. And I think as the season goes, I think he's going to get better and better at it. So I'm not ready to write off Reed Shepard just yet. I think he's going to be just fine.
No, look, and I don't care what his shooting numbers are. He's going to be able to produce offensively. Like,
Yeah,
don't give me a 4 game sample size and whatever. The guy's going to be a heck of an offensive player. They think he's got star potential on the offensive end, but we know Ime Udoka. That is a as
yeah. You
defensive
can't play for
minded.
him.
Yeah,
He,
he is a defense first, hard nosed head coach. And with Reed, like you mentioned, OKC, dude, Lou Dort's beating you off the dribble. Aaron
yeah,
Wiggins, a nice player. He shouldn't be blowing by you. It ain't like it's Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Come on. And with him, there's really three things are going to happen on, one of these three things will happen on the defensive end. Either number one, and the hope is he will get better. And, he's going to stick his nose in there. They're going to see progress and, they're going to be able to live with it. Number two is they're going to have to scrap the switch everything style that they play when he's on the floor, and they're going to have to come up with a scheme specific to Reed Shepard that is about protecting him. Which, if he's good enough offensively, you can justify that. And the third option, and this one is a while down the road, would be that he may just stop playing him a lot. But
yeah,
it's gonna be one of those three things with Reed Shepard, who again they think he's got star potential. They know Amin Thompson has star potential.
yeah.
He had two-way star potential. So I think to sum it up, the Rockets, as they're leading the NBA in offensive efficiency, do not consider their point guard situation to be a problem right now.
Yeah, and Ime was very confident coming into the season. Like we're gonna do it by committee, and he was confident. Like Şengün can run offense, Reed Shepard can facilitate offense, Kevin Durant. They got plenty of people that can do that, and it's just not going to look traditional. That don't matter. Does it win games, or that's what's important. And so I think again, as the season goes, they'll figure that out, and they've got plenty of options there.
Speaking of untraditional point guard situations, let's go to my backyard. The
Okay.
Dallas Mavericks. Cooper Flagg, at 18 years old, having never played the point guard position at any level in his life, is a Dallas Mavericks starting point guard. The early results aren't great. Now, this is a long-term project, and it's a fascinating situation because the Mavericks consider themselves to be in a win now situation. We reasonable minds can disagree. They consider themselves to be in a win now situation. But Jason Kidd's really taken a long-term view by playing Cooper Flagg at the point guard position to start his career. And J Kidd did the same thing with Giannis. He got to Milwaukee for Giannis' second year, and Giannis obviously wasn't nearly as polished. Giannis was playing in like the second division in Greece. He wasn't NCAA Player of the Year at Duke. But it definitely paid dividends for Giannis in his career, and they're hoping the same thing for Flagg. But the simple fact of the matter is, I would say Flagg has had one really good game. They had a 5 game homestand. They went 2-3. He had one really good game against the Raptors, a pretty good game against the Wizards that they lost at home by double figures and they were firing Nico Chance. Oof. Um, Pretty good game against the Pacers that I think it might have been the Fort Wayne Mad Ants plus Pascal Siakam. Though somehow went down to the wire. Oh, and Anthony Davis exited with lower leg soreness. And then, man, you saw him against the Spurs. It was rough. Stephon Castle made the first 2 quarters of his career just absolute hell. And then, same thing with Case and Wallace in Oklahoma City. And the Dallas Mavericks are the number 29 offense in the NBA. So it's a roster that just has precious little offensive creation and shooting, and there's a solution, but the solution is Kyrie Irving, who is continuing to rehab from a torn ACL suffered in March. And, it's not like he's coming back next week. It's going to be mid-season. And then, you hope Kyrie can hit the ground running, but I think you have to have realistic expectations for a guy in his mid-30s coming off an ACL. Frankly, just like you got to have, for all the hype, you got to have realistic expectations for an 18-year-old kid in the NBA.
Well, also, Tim, I think that, just take Kyrie Irving out of it. With him being hurt, you thought coming into the season that one of your strengths was going to be your front court. Derek Lively, Gafford, AD.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned AD goes out in the first quarter. Derek Lively is still out too, right? And
Derek
then
Lively's missed the last couple. Gafford's yet to play after spraining his ankle in the first day of camp.
and those were supposed to be your strengths with Kyrie Irving out of the lineup. So you thought that, Cooper could kind of lean on those guys to help get him through. And they haven't had that. So I think that's been a big problem with them. And I just don't know how much longer it lasts. But hey, man, you got Dwight Powell, the Tim McMahon of the Dallas Mavericks. He got
Hey,
MVP chance last night, man.
MVP chance, baby. The second guy this year to get MVP chance at the American Airlines Center. It was Victor Wembanyama and,
Right.
and now Dwight Powell. I think those two guys got a ton in common.
Yeah, yeah. And then Brandon Williams goes for 20. I mean, after he has his little
Look, he had 20 points and two
thing.
assists. There's a whole lot of puff, not as much pass, but a
Yeah.
big role in that win over the Pacers.
What I'm saying though, that was a big win for them. I mean, because they've been struggling, man. Like that opening night, I was like the Mavs were not what we thought they were, but that was just Victor Wembanyama.
Well,
That's just big. He does that to people.
I hear you, but then they lost at home by double figures to the Washington Wizards. The Mavericks are,
Yeah,
they've really they've got to be a great defensive team. They haven't been yet. The offense is going to be a struggle. Jake Kidd was hesitant to play D'Angelo Russell those first couple games. They need him in the mix. He's not shooting it great, but the offense flows a lot better when you've got an experienced point guard or a guy who can dribble on the floor. Um, they head down to Mexico City. Maybe they can, find a little bit of rhythm down there.
it's gonna
Um,
be hard. It's gonna be hard against that defense, man.
yeah, yeah. Well, we will certainly keep an eye on it. It's going to be a fun season in the in the state of Texas as far as the NBA goes. Three teams, all in different situations, all fascinating for different reasons, and looking forward to talking about it with you every week.
It's gonna be fun, man. Can you believe the Spurs are one of four undefeated teams in the NBA right now? That's amazing. That's amazing.
Seeing is believing, and we will do this every Thursday, Mike. Appreciate you joining me, and adios, amigos.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Wait, think I'm James Harden where I pull up all range. No, Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA on the ESPN tour.